In the monster-occupied region, Shishan region, within the confines of Shishan City, the governor's residence buzzed with activity. Two men stood near lavishly adorned food tables, engaging in conversation. The bald man questioned the extravagance of the wedding banquet, especially considering the scarcity of supplies in the current period. His friend responded, and explained that this wasn't just any wedding, it marked the alliance between the governor and the biggest financial group in Shishan, the Yuan Financial Group. Moreover, it represented the first-ever marriage between humanity and monsters, symbolizing peace. Hence the celebration was naturally more elaborate than usual. The bald man then inquired if he was going to eat. However, his friend confessed to having no appetite. Spotting a beggar boy walking behind them, the friend remarked on the laxity of the special hunter unit, allowing even a beggar to slip into the assembly hall. The beggar child approached the waitresses and politely requested a piece of blueberry cake, explaining it was his little sister's birthday. But the waitresses were angered by his presence and rebuffed him harshly, asserting that a lowly beggar had no place in such surroundings and instructed him to leave immediately. Just then, a colossal monster emerged behind the child and questioned the waitress, asking if she had just mentioned that there were no more blueberry cakes. The frightened waitress attempted to explain, but the monster didn't wait for her response. Instead, he seized the child and casually mentioned using him as a snack before the main meal. Without any hesitation, the monster placed the child in its mouth, and soon, blood dripped onto the ground. The waitress finally managed to stammer out that there was still blueberry cake, but it was too late. At that moment, a girl hurled a rock at the monster's head, shouting for it to give her brother back. Onlookers quickly identified her as the one responsible. People in the vicinity, realizing the impending danger, began fleeing, warning others to escape the approaching great monster. The monster approached the girl, callously commenting on the tastiness of her brother and suggesting she, too, would make a delicious snack. In the main area of the banquet, a demon sat on a throne, with a human girl adorned in a wedding dress sitting on his lap. President Jin approached the demon governor and extended his gratitude, acknowledging the governor's role in brokering a ceasefire and restoring peace between humanity and monsters. He spoke of the ongoing recovery and rebuilding efforts in the Shishan region, expressing the citizens' gratitude for the governor's esteemed contributions. The governor, acknowledging his past support to their troops, assured him that his contributions wouldn't be forgotten. In recognition of his efforts, he proposed a position as the bank president of the Shishan Reserve Bank, along with a role as a board member of the China Merchants Group. President Jin, expressing satisfaction, thanked him for his benevolence and accepted the positions with gratitude. Two men stood near the area, observing the grand spectacle unfolding. The first man expressed envy over President Jin's substantial gains from obtaining two lucrative positions. The second man, however, dismissed the significance of those gains in comparison to the Yuan Financial Group's extensive influence. He spoke of Yuan Jinyun's cunning tactics, leveraging monster assistance to occupy a significant portion of the Shishan region, even marrying off his daughter, Yuan Jia, to the governor. The first man then commented on the stark contrast between the frail appearance of the bride and the imposing figure of the governor. He then hoped that no one would get killed on this big wedding day. As Yuan Jia descended the stairs, she clapped her hands to gather everyone's attention. She announced the plan to move forward, instructing hunters to block all exits and prevent anyone from leaving. With a bold proclamation, she revealed that the leader of the rebel army was among the guests, and with this, they would apprehend him in an instant. In response, a man with evident anger questioned Yuan Jia's intentions and expressed reluctance to stay in a place with potential rebel army members, deeming it too dangerous. Another voiced suspicions, accusing her of using them as bait. Two hunters guarding the door assured the guests that everything was within Yuan Jia's calculations and guaranteed their safety. However, the door suddenly blasted open, sending people in the way flying back. A shower of blood rained down upon the horrified guests, and chaos erupted in the room. Entering with a monster head in hand, a man smiled and casually remarked that he wanted to give everyone a little gift to celebrate the governor's wedding. The guests, witnessing the gruesome scene, panicked and started running away, shouting about the presence of a monster's corpse. As the chaos unfolded, one man questioned the sanity of someone daring to do such a thing on the governor's wedding day. Another called for dealing with the intruder, challenging the earlier assurance of safety. Yuan Jia, looking at the man with a cold smile, identified him as the A-rank wanted criminal. She explained that she had been busy dealing with the rebel army forces and hadn't wanted to personally handle someone of his caliber. However, she saw his arrival as an opportune moment and declared her intention to use him as her first gift to the groom. Yuan Jia continued to smirk, revealing another piece of information to Zuiqi. She disclosed that she had already sent hunters to the martial arts center that took him in, intending to use it as bait to draw him out. However, since he wasn't there, she suggested that everyone he knew had likely been completely massacred. Zuiqi responded with a sarcastic smile, asserting that if those who underwent his training were killed by the trash she sent, then they were also trash. He bluntly stated that if they are trash, then they deserve to die. Yuan Jia smirked and expressed her dislike for stubborn men, as it often compensated for another body not being hard enough. She then instructed the hunters to capture him, and they promptly charged at him with their weapons drawn. In the face of these incoming attacks, Zuiqi remained calm and found their loyalty commendable. Zuiqi moved swiftly, swinging his arm like a sword, effortlessly defeating the numerous attackers. He taunted Yuan Jia, expressing disappointment that she couldn't discern the difference in strength. Yuan Jia was left in shock as she witnessed the defeated S-rank and A-rank hunters on the ground, wondering how they could be defeated so quickly. Suddenly, Zuiqi appeared in front of her, questioning whether these were the so-called hunters she had relied on earlier. Yuan Jia panicked as she realized how close he had gotten to her. Fearing for her life and contemplating the potential end of her ambitions, she expected imminent death. However, to her surprise, Zuiqi simply walked past her, stating that he didn't harm women. Yuan Jia felt relieved, but as Zuiqi moved on, she smirked at his foolishness and vowed to make him regret his decision. Before she could finish her thoughts, Zuiqi's punch landed on her face, sending her flying and crashing into the wall. Zuiqi, with a smile, pondered the situation and concluded that since she was married to a monster, she shouldn't count as a woman. He even suggested she might not be human anymore. The demon governor was intrigued by his audacity and jumped in front of Zuiqi, noting that despite emitting no magical power and being neither a hunter nor a monster, he possessed considerable strength. In response, Zuiqi threw a punch at him and told him to remember that this was martial arts. A massive shockwave ensued, obscuring the fate of the demon governor. However, in the next moment, a voice questioned the strength of Zuiqi's martial arts. The demon governor had caught his punch and expressed disappointment. He mentioned that his comrades had once entered a world where martial arts reigned supreme, and they had said that those experts' strength was not bad. But in this world, martial arts were trashed to such an extent that they were worse than those hunters. He had hoped to meet a real martial artist, however, he was too weak. Suddenly, Zuiqi's demeanor shifted as he smiled, and his body began a remarkable transformation. He sequentially employed powerful techniques: Golden Belt 18th layer, Iron Shirt 12th layer, Black Demon Overlord Body 16th layer, and finally, 9 transformations of the Golden Body, 3rd layer. As a result, his body became covered in crimson-red scales, giving him a formidable appearance. Zuiqi expressed that the sensation of unfolding his body made him feel carefree and relaxed. On the other hand, the governor was shocked and unable to comprehend the transformation, beginning to voice his astonishment. However, before he could finish, Zuiqi swiftly caught his head and slammed it into the ground with force, while saying that nothing excited him more than the wails that came from his opponents. The governor, in a shaky voice, asked what kind of freak Zuiqi was, realizing that he might not even be human. With a smirk, Zuiqi explained that corrupt monsters, treating human lives as food, couldn't comprehend the true meaning of martial arts. He claimed that immortals represented the pinnacle of martial arts, existing only within legends. He then revealed that by utilizing the 5 Qi towards Yuan technique, he had condensed immense power, surpassed the limits of the human race, and had become a true immortal. In a martial world many unknown years ago, 2 martial artists found themselves in a fierce battle against a horde of demons. The younger one urgently addressed the alliance leader, reporting the overwhelming presence of demon beasts surrounding them. The alliance leader, fighting valiantly, cut a demon in half but coughed up blood, expressing surprise at the unexpected turn of events. He pondered whether this place was a trap, contemplating the prospect of him and the demonic cult leader meeting their end together. The demonic cult leader wore a revealing dress and demonstrated her prowess by killing multiple demons with energy threads. She then asked the 5 Mountain Sword Alliance leader if that was all he could do and if he was about to die soon. If so, it would be better if he let her absorb his internal energy so she could dispatch a few more demonic beasts. Suddenly, a giant demon crushed one of the martial artists and taunted the remaining humans. the demonic cult leader was alarmed by the appearance of another giant demonic beast. She recalled that they had barely managed to kill one by working together, but with their current weakened state, it was impossible. The Alliance leader, resigned to their fate, acknowledged that their journey might be coming to an end. The giant demon prepared to attack, proclaiming its intent to devour them. However, before its strike could land, a powerful beam of energy pierced through its back, blasting through its chest. The demon fell lifeless, and Zuichi emerged, standing over its defeated form with a confident smile. Addressing both leaders, he expressed a hint of surprise that they were still alive. The Sword Alliance leader recognized the technique used as the sky-splitting palm and acknowledged that Zuichi had gotten stronger again. The demonic cult leader, with a seductive smile, remarked that his true energy seemed even more delicious now. She then proposed to engage in dual cultivation, suggesting that their offspring would undoubtedly become the strongest martial artists in history. However, Zuichi flatly refused the offer, stating that he was not interested and that what he was pursuing was the peak of the martial Tao. The Sword Alliance leader seized the moment, suggesting that with Zuichi's presence, they could break out of the encirclement of demonic beasts. Zuichi, however, dismissed the idea of running, declaring his intention to confront and eliminate the one who had betrayed them. The Alliance leader expressed disbelief at his intention to kill the world's #1 expert, Chin Yuan of the Heavenly Sword sect, while surrounded by demonic beasts. However, Zuichi walked past them, playfully remarking to the Alliance leader not to die and promising to mock him at his gravestone if he did. The Alliance leader retorted confidently, stating that he was still very strong and living until 200 years old wouldn't be a problem for him. Zuichi then jumped into the midst of the demonic horde, encouraging them to unleash the same tenacity they once had when opposing him. He then went into a frenzy and started slaughtering the demonic beasts. Elsewhere, a martial artist was suspended in the air, his chest impaled by a demon's tentacles. With a pained voice, he questioned Chin Yuan about the reason behind his betrayal. A masked demon laughed and thanked Chin Yuan, as with his help, all the top experts in the world had been killed in one fell swoop. He questioned Chin Yuan about how it felt watching his comrades die in front of him, but Chin Yuan remained silent. Seeing this, the masked demon found it boring and mentioned that he hated reserved people. Suddenly, he declared the arrival of a guest with an intrigued tone. Zuichi arrived on the scene, swiftly dispatching the tentacle demon with a single decisive strike. Observing this, the masked demon expressed interest, considering him a worthy opponent. He contemplated the prospect of stretching his muscles and having some fun. Suddenly, Chin Yuan launched an energy wave at him, but the masked demon questioned what he was doing. Chin Yuan, with a serious expression, declared that Zuichi was his target. The masked demon gave up and claimed that he was just trying to help, as it was his responsibility to protect him until the ceremony ended. However, since he didn't want his help, he could just forget it. Just then, Zuichi interjected and questioned why Chin Yuan had joined the demonic beasts. Chin Yuan, with a solemn tone, asserted that he sought the peak of the martial Tao. Zuichi wondered aloud if his brain had gone bad. Joining hands with demonic beasts and betraying his comrades for the peak of martial arts seemed like absurd logic. Chin Yuan defended his choice, asserting that those people were not his comrades and they had never understood him. According to him, their pursuits of money, authority, power, and honor had reduced the martial Tao to a mere tool rather than a genuine goal. However, in his view, Zuichi was different. Chin Yuan drew a parallel between them, claiming that both were seekers of the illusory legend, the peak of the martial Tao, immortality. Zuichi, with a hint of sarcasm, questioned whether joining the demonic beasts would lead to immortality. If there was actually such a good thing, even he would be tempted. Chin Yuan thanked him, as it was due to the urgency Zuichi had instilled in him with his horrifying martial talent that he was urged to cultivate with all his effort. As a result, his cultivation had surpassed all the ancestors in the history of the Heavenly Sword sect. But that was the end of martial Tao, and there was no road ahead, none at all. Immortality had never existed. Nonetheless, he remained committed to his dream. He recognized the limits of the human body, so the only way to continue exploring the peak of the martial Tao was to transform their bodies into one of the demonic beasts. He implored Zuichi to join him, believing that he would have even greater potential than himself after the transformation. And once the transformation ceremony was complete, they would definitely find the path that belonged to them. The masked demon was taken aback by his offer, questioning the decision to share the accumulated energy for the ceremony with Sui Qi after sacrificing numerous top experts and paying the price of the world. However, Chin Yuan remained resolute, asserting that Sui Qi was qualified. The masked demon acknowledged that Sui Qi was totally different from Chin Yuan, who was born into the world's strongest sect, the Heavenly Sword sect. This sect had only one successor in every generation, but that individual was capable of surpassing all martial artists in the entire world with their strength. In contrast, Sui Qi, initially a beggar who acquired trash-like martial arts from the underworld gang he joined, rose to prominence through his own efforts and became an overlord, who was only second to Chin Yuan. Addressing Sui Qi directly, the masked demon declared that he was qualified to become one of them, offering a chance at continued existence. However, Sui Qi rejected the offer without hesitation. Sui Qi, brimming with confidence, dismissed the idea of becoming a demonic beast. Moreover, he asserted that the masked demon's information was incorrect. He was not second to Chin Yuan. He then gathered energy in his fist and declared his intention to wreck Chin Yuan and subsequently kill the masked demon too. In response, Chin Yuan summoned a sword made of energy, expressing his determination to convince him through physical action rather than words. He then used the Heavenly Sword Thousand Shadows technique and launched an attack. The clash between the fist and sword resulted in a standoff, with neither being pushed back. Sui Qi unleashed another attack and questioned if this was the so-called end of his martial Dao. He started mocking him, mentioning that he was too weak and it was no wonder he couldn't become an immortal. Chin Yuan countered and calmly retorted that he was just taking it easy on him. The battle between the two martial artists continued, but no one emerged as a clear victor from this confrontation. As the intensity of the battle escalated, Sui Qi proposed settling the confrontation with one decisive strike. Chin Yuan readily agreed to this proposition. The collision of their powerful attacks resulted in a massive explosion, engulfing the surroundings in a haze of smoke. As the smoke began to dissipate, droplets of blood became visible on the ground, and soon it became clear that Chin Yuan was the one who had been injured. With a victorious tone, Sui Qi asked if he was now convinced of his strength. Chin Yuan refused to admit his defeat and claimed that he had gotten lucky and won by just one move. He then mockingly asked Sui Qi whether he was pleased with his first victory. In response, Sui Qi confidently asserted that moving forward, he would win not only once but twice, thrice, countless times. However, the mood abruptly shifted as black energy radiated from Chin Yuan's eyes. He somberly declared that it was too late, the transformation ceremony had already begun. Dark energy enveloped Chin Yuan, submerging him in what seemed like a cocoon. Soon, it flew up and began absorbing energy from the lifeless bodies that lay on the battlefield. The demons, upon witnessing this transformation, began chanting, their voices resonating with anticipation for evolution and immortality. As the cocoon explosively burst open, the energy dissipated into the surroundings, and Chin Yuan emerged in his demonic form. For majestic wings adorned his back, exuding an aura of power. The masked demon was taken aback by the strength he felt and couldn't help but marvel at Chin Yuan's terrifying talent. He noted that immediately after the transformation ceremony, Chin Yuan had surpassed the Legion level, reaching the general level. Chin Yuan extended his hand towards Sui Qi, offering a last chance. He revealed that this world was dying, inviting him to come with him. Together, they would conquer countless worlds beyond the heavens and seek a new path. Sui Qi was left stunned by this proposition. In response, he began to laugh and mock the transformed appearance of Chin Yuan. He then questioned whether this was the power he had sought, achieved through the betrayal of fellow martial artists. In an instant, Chin Yuan materialized in front of him. Placing his hand on Sui Qi's chest, he affirmed that this was indeed the power he had sought. Chin Yuan released a surge of dark energy, creating a hole in his chest. Sui Qi coughed up blood and accused him of a sneak attack. However, Chin Yuan retorted and questioned the notion of a sneak attack launched from the front. The masked demon opened a portal, signaling that it was time to depart and dismissing the worthlessness of the current world. Chin Yuan, moving towards the portal, declared their departure to the next world. Sui Qi, writhing in pain on the ground, watched helplessly as they vanished through the portal. In his anguish, he pondered his imminent demise, expressing bitter laughter at the irony of not reaching the pinnacle of martial arts and facing death in such a manner. He then swore that he would kill Chin Yuan, no matter which world he went to. As the portal closed, Sui Qi's eyes shut, and darkness enveloped his senses. Amidst the void, voices echoed, chanting, Death to the traitors. Give us back our Western Mountain, the relentless chorus persisted, and soon Zhuqi's eyes fluttered open in this noisy atmosphere. Confused, he questioned his state of being. Wasn't he already dead, killed by that bastard Chin Yuan? Yet, as he surveyed his surroundings, he found himself in a peculiar room. Elegant furniture and luxurious decor adorned the space in a style unfamiliar to him, and ahead of him lay the lifeless bodies of others, dressed in attire that he found tasteful but unfamiliar. Zhuqi decided to remove their clothes and seek out a tailor to customize a new set for himself. However, a sudden realization struck him: he couldn't move. His bones were broken, and he had internal bleeding and serious injuries. Soon, he realized that this wasn't his body. The muscles were clearly underexercised, and there was also no trace of true qi in this body. Panic and frustration set in as his consciousness began to blur, but he was unwilling to die again. A guy with glasses rushed toward the room and frantically called out to Zhuqi, mentioning that there wasn't enough time and that if they didn't leave soon, it would be too late. He opened the door and emphasized that even if they found the traitor, it wouldn't mean anything. However, soon he was met with shock as his gaze fixed on lifeless bodies lying on the floor. He recognized one of the dead as Jingmin, the Minister of Foreign Affairs. He was shocked to see that Zhuqi had killed him, as their plan was to kidnap him. After contemplating for a moment, he praised the act, deeming the traitor deserving of death. Since he was now dead, the peace agreement would be temporarily suspended. He then called out to Zhuqi, saying that it was time to leave. Turning his attention to him, Glasses Guy was once again taken aback to find him unmoving and covered in blood. Soon, relief washed over him as he confirmed that Zhuqi was still breathing. He assisted him to his feet and promised to take him to the hospital, assuring him that once they got back, he would be hailed as a hero. However, their conversation was interrupted by the entrance of a middle-aged blonde man. Dismissing the notion of heroes, he scoffed at the idea of parades, riots, and banners, criticizing those who could only play house for daring to call themselves heroes. Blonde man inadvertently halted as he stepped over a lifeless body, his shock evident as he gazed upon the deceased man's face. Turning to the man with glasses, he questioned if this man was dead. Blonde man erupted in anger at their reckless actions. Causing trouble at a diplomat's residence was already a huge deal, but now they had killed Jingmin. He let out a small laugh as he couldn't understand their motives. At first, they were conducting demonstrations and inciting strikes, and now they had started to kill people. They were all college students from Western Mountains University with a bright future ahead of them. So, why would they want to get involved with rebels? Glasses Guy cursed him as a bastard from the Special Intelligence Department, accusing him of posing questions to which he already knew the answers. He asserted that their goal was to prevent the signing of the peace agreement. In response, Blonde Man emphasized that it had taken almost a month for the government to confirm specific details of the peace agreement. This hard-won peace between humans and monsters was now ruined by them. Reflecting on Jingmin's death, he expressed sorrow that the diplomat couldn't even close his eyes in peace. In a fit of anger, Glasses Guy accused him of being a traitor willing to sacrifice their compatriots and hand over human territory to monsters. He vehemently denounced the peace agreement, asserting that talking about peace after killing humans was nonsense. He expressed disbelief in the idea that the ambition of beasts could ever be satisfied. Blonde Man smirked in response and pointed out that at least they were all still alive. However, he emphasized that what they had done was only causing chaos and destruction everywhere. He questioned whether restarting the war was truly what they desired. Suddenly, he closed the distance, gripping Glasses Guy's throat, and asked if he wanted to see death and bloodshed so badly. As Glasses Guy struggled for breath, Blonde Man adopted an evil expression and declared that they had gone too far, crossed the line, and that the one about to die was him. However, surprisingly, he released his grip, mockingly stating that he was just joking. They were precious college students from Western Mountains University, and dying here was out of the question. Moreover, it would be too cheap for them to die so simply. Sometime later, a group of detained students stood before a watchtower, questioning why they had been arrested and demanding their release. They chanted slogans calling for the death of traitors and the return of the Western Mountains. The blonde man stood atop the tower alongside another figure who appeared to be in a position of authority. The prison warden expressed irritation at the noise and questioned why the Special Intelligence Department had placed these students in his prison. He inquired about the number of arrests, and the blonde man responded, stating that all 196 students from Western Mountains University who had caused trouble were here. As if offering a twisted gift, the blonde man suggested that these enthusiastic and lively college students could serve as experimental materials for an important assignment given to his prison by the governor's office. The prison warden rejected the idea, expressing concern about the reputation of Western Mountains University, known as the #1 school in the region. Many prominent figures in politics and business had graduated from the university, and he didn't want to get into any trouble. Upon hearing this, the blonde man questioned if he was scared. The prison warden clarified that he wasn't scared but rather worried about rumors spreading and potentially affecting the signing of the peace agreement. The blonde man then revealed that they had killed the foreign minister, and the higher-ups were also very dissatisfied with these troublemaking students. He hinted that, after the peace agreement was signed in a few days, these students would be used as experimental material, out of sight, out of mind. The prison warden let out a sly smile as he understood the situation and pledged to take good care of the detained students in his territory. He then asked if there was anything else he needed to pay attention to. The blonde man mentioned a student who was sent to a cell early, named Zhuqi. According to the information, Zhuqi had been practicing martial arts since he was a child and possessed impressive skills. Furthermore, he was the one who had killed foreign minister in Jingmin under the protection of 5 armed bodyguards. Thus, he warned the prison warden that Zhuqi was a dangerous individual. The prison warden, however, let out an evil smile and dismissed the notion of Zhuqi being dangerous. Confident in his abilities as a C-rank hunter and being the warden of the prison, he released a chilling laugh as he licked his lips and mentioned that martial artists were just a group of waste eliminated by the times. Zhuqi opened his eyes to an unfamiliar place. Confused, he wondered if it was a guest room. He then remembered that someone had taken him away during his coma, and he couldn't help but wonder about their motives. Regardless, he deemed such details unimportant compared to the worsening injuries plaguing his body, but he found this race against death amusing. He knew that if he couldn't cultivate his qi as soon as possible and stabilize his injuries, he was going to die. Reflecting on his previous life born into poverty, he recalled practicing unconventional martial arts techniques in his youth. The lack of a solid foundation in his initial cultivation hindered his progress, and this minor shortcoming seriously slowed down the advancement of his subsequent cultivation. Just as the height of a building and the difficulty of its construction depend on the quality of its foundation. But now, he had a chance to do it again. There were many cultivation techniques in his mind, and coupled with decades of practice experience, it was just a matter of time before he surpassed his past self. After some thinking, he deemed the Pure Yang technique as the perfect cultivation technique for this body. In a matter of breaths, he successfully extracted the true qi of the Pure Yang technique. Confidence surged as he acknowledged the innate talent of this body. However, suddenly the true qi vanished, and he had no idea what was going on. Zhuqi, determined to unravel the mystery of his body's changes, resolved to attempt the phaseless technique once more. Through experimenting with various techniques like innate qi gong, the Jade Heart Sutra, the Great Prajna Nirvana Dharma, and Kundalini Yoga, he discovered that all cultivated qi inexplicably vanished. But he refused to believe that his body couldn't cultivate, because if that were true, he should have died long ago. On the contrary, he could feel the wounds on his body healing themselves. A smile graced his face as he contemplated the possibility that the recently cultivated qi might be absorbed by his body, and he could sense that his body was undergoing wonderful changes. But his training was interrupted as Glasses Guy entered the room and expressed relief after seeing him awake. He cursed the people who had refused to provide Zhuqi with medication and treatment, leaving him to die. He had only managed to clean and bandage his wounds, and he feared that Zhuqi might not survive. Zhuqi simply thanked him for helping and asked for his name. He promised to repay the favor sooner or later. In shock, Glasses Guy revealed himself as Meng Guangxian, his classmate and best friend. He urged him not to make such jokes and asked if he had lost his mind. However, Zhuqi remained unfazed and claimed that he didn't remember him and didn't need friends as they only made him upset. Meng Guang, concerned, asked if he had truly lost his memory. Zhuqi admitted that his mind was in a mess, and he couldn't remember anything that happened before. He then asked Meng Guang for clarification on his identity and the reason he was there. Meng Guang, realizing the extent of Zhuqi's memory loss, began recounting the entire story. Zhuqi nodded in comprehension as the details unfolded. The explanation revealed a world invaded by monsters, where humanity had suffered significant territorial losses and sought peace through compromise. Both of them were students at Western Mountains University. To prevent the signing of a peace agreement, they participated in street demonstrations orchestrated by rebels. However, the true objective was to kidnap diplomat and Jingmin. The plan went awry, resulting in Jingmin's death at Zuoqi's hands, leading to their imprisonment. Meng Guang reassured him that the rebels wouldn't abandon them, expressing confidence in an imminent rescue. However, Zuoqi detected a lack of conviction in his tone and questioned the strength of the rebels, asking how many monsters they had successfully dealt with. Meng Guang, wearing a serious expression, disclosed that the rebels had successfully eliminated 10,000 monsters and more than 1,300 human traitors. Impressed by the figures, Zuoqi inquired about the number of casualties they had inflicted yesterday. Meng Guang appeared confused, prompting Zuoqi to seek clarification on whether the mentioned figure was the total number. Meng Guang, at a loss for words, admitted that the rebels were not a regular army. Zuoqi's demeanor shifted, and he labeled the rebels as weak. He advised against relying on them and declared his intent to take action. After some time, Meng Guang noticed a change in Zuoqi's demeanor and expressed concern about his body, which was still in the process of recovery. However, Zuoqi insisted that he was almost fully healed. As they walked, Zuoqi abruptly halted and expressed his surprise. Concerned, Meng Guang asked if he was feeling unwell. However, Zuoqi, astonished, questioned if people in this country were crazy. They were allowing criminals to reside in such elegant houses. He couldn't help but wonder if this was indeed a prison. It was excessively luxurious. Meng Guang was slightly exasperated as he explained that, as students of Western Mountains University, they held a special status. Therefore, even if they were in prison, they would not be allowed to live in a place that was too dirty. A group of students arrived, and one of them exclaimed in joy, confirming that Zuoqi was awake. They expressed surprise at his audacious act of assassinating Jingmin and preventing the peace agreement. Some envisioned him becoming a historical heroic figure and requested his autograph for future value. However, a student in the corner displayed contempt and sarcastically dismissed the idea of Zuoqi being a hero. Meng Guang, irritated, called out to the student named Zhou Xian, urging him to voice his opinion without sarcasm. Zhou Xian retorted, telling Meng Guang to step aside and asked Zuoqi if he really wanted to be a hero. He pointed out that Zuoqi had said he was going to a parade, but he had hidden the truth and assassinated a diplomat in secret, and now he was proud of it. He was feeling great about himself, but what about them? Zhou Xian asked him if he was satisfied now that so many of them had been imprisoned, but Zuoqi didn't even look at him and declared that he didn't care. Meng Guang vehemently defended Zuoqi, emphasizing the risks he had taken to assassinate the diplomat and prevent the peace agreement. He challenged Zhou Xian, asking if he regretted their actions. Fueled by anger, Zhou Xian admitted that he regretted it. He pointed out that in the past 3 days, 6 students had been taken in for questioning by the warden, but they never returned. Everyone could already guess what had happened to all those students. Zhou Xian was sure that they were all going to die, and no one would save them. He then voiced concerns about the girls who had been locked up in another area and the mistreatment they might have suffered. At that moment, the prison warden arrived and started speaking, noting that it was lively here and remarking that he might have come at the wrong time. Meng Guang confronted the warden, accusing him of taking more people for so-called questioning sessions and demanding the return of their classmates. The warden smiled slyly and told them to take it easy. He felt that they should have been feeling very depressed these days, so after some thinking, he had brought them a little entertainment. He then ordered 2 guards to bring in a TV, who followed his order and brought it swiftly. Zuoqi sarcastically expressed gratitude to the warden for the luxurious accommodations, remarking that the entertainment was a nice touch. In a seemingly considerate tone, he declared his intention to plan a jailbreak later. As he tapped on the TV, he questioned how to operate the device and wondered why it wasn't responding. The warden recognized Zuoqi as the one who dared to assassinate Jingmin. He decided to deal with him later, as there would be plenty of time to talk afterward. He then turned on the TV, broadcasting live news. The anchor announced the arrival of peace after 30 days of talks between humans and wanderers from different worlds. The 1-year war had caused significant losses on both sides, and today at the border of the Western Mountains, humans and monsters had reached a peace agreement. One of the students was overwhelmed and fell to his knees, wearing a hopeless expression as he questioned the purpose of their efforts upon learning that the peace agreement had been signed. In contrast, Meng Guang dismissed the news as fake, refusing to believe that the agreement could be finalized so quickly after the death of the foreign minister. The warden found amusement in mocking their expectations, questioning the impact a few students could have on changing the course of the world. He scoffed at the notion that the death of one diplomat could alter the destined future of two races. With a sinister smirk, he persisted in taunting, labeling the students as losers abandoned by the Western Mountains Provisional Government. He asserted that the rebels wouldn't waste their strength on them, and their sole value lay in serving as experimental subjects in the prison. Meng Guang, incensed by the mention of experimental subjects, demanded to know what had happened to his classmates. He remarked that if what was going on in prison was exposed by the news media, then consequences would be significant. However, the warden, sporting an evil smile, asserted that they wouldn't find out, and even if they did, people would just praise him for shaping the future of humans in warfare. He then pushed Meng Guang away, asserting that today wasn't his turn. The experimental subject for the day was the great hero who had returned from the dead. Zhuqi smiled at the warden and inquired if he had finished speaking. Finding the situation amusing, he dared the warden to entertain him further, cautioning that he might be compelled to escape otherwise. Meng Guang, in frustration, slammed his hand against the wall and proclaimed that they couldn't wait any longer. He declared that the only ones who could save them were themselves, emphasizing the need to act as soon as possible. Zhou Xian erupted in anger, questioning Meng Guang's newfound heroism. He reminded him of their classmates' arrest 2 days earlier and criticized his inaction at that time. Meng Guang defended himself, explaining that the situation had changed since the peace agreement was signed. He urged Zhou Xian to join the resistance against Warden and escape from their dire circumstances to avoid becoming experimental subjects and facing death. However, Zhou Xian accused him of being motivated solely by concern for Zhuqi, who had been taken away by the warden. Meng Guang clarified that it wasn't just Zhuqi he wanted to save. Other classmates, including girls held in different areas, had also been taken away in recent days. Amidst the tense exchange, a student on his knees laughed cynically, expressing doubt about their ability to save anyone. He highlighted Warden's prowess as a hunter and the prison's defense by several monsters, asserting their powerlessness. Suddenly, a student seized Meng Guang's collar and sarcastically remarked on the greatness of killing the Minister of Foreign Affairs. However, in the end, a peace agreement was still signed, and now they had become victims of the situation. Zhou Xian then declared his indifference to Zhuqi's fate, even if he was being used as an experimental subject, and stated that he would never save him. In the prison laboratory, a doctor diligently noted on a notepad, detailing adjustments to the experimental protocol. He mentioned a reduction in the catalyst dosage and the reformulation of agent number 4, marking the commencement of the 305th experiment at 2:10 p.m. A blonde girl, bound to a seat, expressed her distress as she questioned Sun Mengyu about her decision to work for them. Sun Mengyu responded with a chilling smile, stating that she would do anything for survival. She recounted the fate of 12 classmates who, in previous experiments, transformed into puddles of mud while writhing in pain. Rather than feeling fear, she found herself laughing at their demise. The blonde girl, desperate to reach her friend, insisted that this wasn't the real Sun Mengyu and implored her to wake up. She reminded her of their friendship, but Mengyu, with cold eyes, dismissed the notion. She asserted that they were never friends and confessed a deep-seated dislike for her rich girl behavior. Determined to proceed, she prepared to inject the blonde girl. As the syringe approached, the room filled with the harrowing screams of the blonde girl. Outside the lab, Zhuqi was escorted in by the warden, his attention piqued by the piercing scream emanating from within. Unfazed, he casually mentioned that the scream was making him sleepy. He questioned the warden, asking if he had brought him there just to torture him with a bunch of nonsense. The warden assured him that he wouldn't be disappointed. He opened the lab door and welcomed him to witness the most exciting scene. Before them lay the unrecognizable form of the blonde girl, writhing in pain and pleading for help. Sun Mengyu, indifferent to the suffering, kicked her and expressed disdain for the repulsive transformation. The warden expressed pity for another failed experiment. The doctor explained that the concept behind agent number 4 was accurate. By reducing the catalyst, the experimental subject retained its form after death instead of turning into a pool of blood. Zhuqi maintained a calm demeanor and questioned if this was what he wanted to show him, the transformation of humans into monsters. Prison warden, in a triumphant tone, agreed and emphasized that this was a discovery that could change the world. He proclaimed himself as the pioneer who would bring about this change. Zhuqi expressed skepticism and stated that, to him, it seemed like he simply enjoyed killing people. The warden countered, explaining that the ultimate goal was to end the war between humans and monsters. According to his rationale, only when all humans transformed into monsters could true peace prevail. He revealed that, until now, there had been only one successful record of a human transforming into a monster across countless conquered worlds. However, with the technological advancements in their world, the monster transformation experiment had made significant progress, even garnering the attention of a powerful being who was once human. Upon hearing this, Suichi grew excited and questioned whether the monster who had relinquished its humanity was also present. The warden clarified that the power of these beings far exceeded that of a mere legion, making their current world unable to bear their might. Nevertheless, on the day of their arrival, pioneers like him would receive great praise. The warden then proclaimed that, for his brilliant future, Suichi, a great sinner who had assassinated the Minister of Foreign Affairs, would become a part of his achievements. Suddenly, a mysterious power enveloped Suichi, rendering him immobile. The warden then handed Sun Mengyu a syringe and instructed her to administer the number 4 agent to Suichi. Curious to observe its effects on a martial artist, Sun Mengyu, hesitant and concerned for her safety, questioned the warden about the potential danger. She pointed out that Suichi, being a martial artist, could kill her if she approached recklessly. With a wicked expression, the warden reassured her, expressing satisfaction with her service both in the morning and at night. Since she was such a useful tool, how could he be willing to let her die? He told her not to worry, as he had restricted Suichi's movements with his mental power, asserting that he couldn't even move a finger. Suichi acknowledged the utilization of mental power and inquired whether it stemmed from the prowess of a hunter, expressing his interest. The warden, wearing a sly smile, emphasized the substantial disparity between martial artists and hunters, encouraging Sun Mengyu to proceed with the administration of the agent. Sun Mengyu blamed him because it was his fault that all his classmates had fallen into this predicament. She justified her actions by saying that she just wanted to live and pleaded for him to remain quiet and still. The warden, reveling in the spectacle, taunted Suichi, questioning how it felt to be betrayed by a companion. He emphasized that martial artists who have been abandoned are more valuable when turned into monsters. Sun Mengyu swung the syringe towards Suichi, bidding him farewell with a scornful remark. However, Suichi maintained a calm demeanor and encouraged her to say it again. But before she could bid farewell once more, Suichi swiftly grasped her hand and injected the syringe into her own neck. Sun Mengyu, shocked and frightened, pleaded with him to swiftly withdraw the syringe. Without hesitation, Suichi injected the serum into her neck and questioned if this was how a syringe was used. Prison warden, taken aback, wondered what was going on, as he was sure that he had immobilized Suichi with his power. Meanwhile, Sun Mengyu transformed into a monster and told warden that she was hungry. She then attacked the warden, but nimble on his feet, he managed to evade her assault. Unfortunately, the doctor was not as fortunate and fell prey to the monster's jaws. As the monster devoured the doctor, the prison warden heard Suichi counting backward from 5 to 1. The warden turned to him in anger and demanded to know why he was counting. With a confident smile, Suichi explained that he was counting down the time it would take for his injuries to fully recover. Seizing the opportunity, Suichi grabbed prison warden's head and forcefully smashed it into the ground. With a decisive tone, he declared that now he could meet his end.